Everyone has a story. Stories have power. They help us understand. Jessop's Journal is a collection of powerful, positive, and inspirational stories. It's time for Jessop's Journal.
Hi, I'm Doug Jessop. Welcome to this episode of Jessop's Journal, where we share powerful, positive, and inspirational stories and music. First up is a gentleman with a very powerful story about cybersecurity.
Simplicity is really the key to cybersecurity.
Makisi Tapa has a positive message in his music and his words.
I think if my music can bring meaning to every minute of your life, I think that'll be what the impact of my music can be.
There are certain stories that deserve to be told. They're inspirational stories that I call the caring stories.
October 1963. Ogden Police Detective Sergeant Marshall White was shot and killed while trying to talk a suspect into surrendering his weapon. He was the first black officer killed in the line of duty in Utah. His son, Ronald White, was 6 years old.
Of course, don't forget one of my favorite projects, Objects with Stories Are Treasures Remembered.
The GS on this saddle stands for George Summers. Well, back in the early 1930s, this gentleman would go to the coffee shop, and on his way home, he'd stop by a saddle shop in Garland and give what he could to get his special saddle. Some weeks it was 25, 50 cents. After 2 years of contributing for this saddle, he decided to tell his wife about it. Well, she was not thrilled, and she made him sell the saddle back to the maker.
But first, Aaron Turner. Aaron, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you.
So we've talked a little bit, and you are apparently the Forrest Gump of cybersecurity. What in the world does that mean?
That means that I'm a kid from a small town who ended up in some really weird cybersecurity situations and have gotten to travel the world and see a lot of really interesting things.
In your mind, what is cybersecurity?
Cybersecurity, in the best definition, is thinking about how do you protect yourself holistically. Just like you have good locks on your doors and making sure that you've locked your windows and everything, how are you making sure that your digital life is properly secured in a way where bad things don't happen to you at a personal level? At a company level, what are you doing to make sure that you're not setting yourself up for failure when it comes to your digital properties?
Well, I guess the natural question is, how in the world do you avoid getting hacked? I mean, what kind of advice would you give people?
The simpler you live your digital life, the better. So for example, just like in your home, you don't want it to be cluttered with all this stuff. You don't want to be a digital hoarder. You don't want to have piles and piles of garbage of all these apps you've installed and this computer that you've had for forever and it's never really been cleaned up. You want to have some really good personal hygiene. So on a personal level, you want to make sure that you're constantly saying, can I refresh this system, just flatten it so I uninstall everything on it and start fresh. From a company perspective, similar. You want to simplify the systems that you're using to support your business. The more complex the systems are inside of your company network, the greater likelihood that you're going to have a problem. And so simplicity is really the key to cybersecurity.
Now, I understand that when you were a kid, you used to be able to catch fish with your hands, okay? Well, now fishing is a whole different world in your new computer stuff, so explain fishing and what is it and how can people avoid it?
Most crimes happen because someone wants to use what's called social engineering, because it's easier to hack the person sometimes than it is to hack the system. So if I can trick you into doing something by using emotion or some other human-based lure to get you to do something, that's going to be better. So for example, if I send you an email that says, your password is going to be reset, and if you don't click this link, then you're going to get locked out of your bank account. Most people are going to go, I want to click this link because I don't want to get locked on my bank account. But was that really the bank that sent you the email? And so you should view every single thing you get through email, text message, and just run it through a perception filter of high cynicism. Is this really something that I asked for? Is this really someone I'm dealing with? Most likely it's not. 9 times out of 10, it's someone else who's trying to manipulate you emotionally to elicit a response to hack you as the person to do something. So at its core, phishing is a game of trickery, and they're trying to trick you to do something that benefits the attacker.
I understand that you've been kicked out of a couple countries. I got to find out what the backstory is to that.
So in the 2014 timeframe, I was hired by one of my consulting customers to look into some problems they were having on their corporate network. They were concerned about the loss of some sensitive intellectual property. These were secret formulas involving different types of chemicals that they were developing, different industrial processes. And they couldn't account for why this certain company in China was ending up with stuff that looked a lot like theirs. And so I was sent over to China and was doing some research there in Shanghai and Nanjing. And when I was there, I uncovered a fairly elaborate way that the Chinese government was gaining access to this company's network. And by doing so, my discovery resulted in my invitation to leave.
Oh dear.
Which is better to be asked to stay.
So how do you want to leave your mark?
I would like to be remembered as someone who made a real positive difference in the world of cybersecurity. And that's been my goal for the last 30 years, and hopefully I can keep doing it for some more.
Well, thank you so much for coming on Jessop's Journal.
Thank you.
In this episode of Jessop's Journey, we're traveling at your leisure off the coast of California to Catalina Island.
Upon arriving in the city of Avalon on Catalina Island, we got on a modified military Humvee and took a tour of the town of about 4,000 full-time residents with Andrew Quintana of the Catalina Island Company.
You can call me Andrew, Andy, Driver, Drew, you, Hey You, or Bison.
More about the name Bison later. The Wrigley family, yes, the chewing gum folks, acquired the majority of the Catalina Island Company in 1919, built a house and invested millions of dollars in the island. The Wrigleys happened to own a baseball team, so why not? Catalina Island was the spring training location for the Chicago Cubs from 1921 to 1951.
From the prom-fringed patio of the country club at Catalina Island, the National League champion Chicago Cubs leave for their nearby spring training grounds.
In the 1970s, the Wrigleys donated 88% of the land to the Catalina Island Conservancy for preservation. The island normally gets around 11 inches of rain per year. This year, they got more than double that number, which makes for an incredible, beautiful landscape.
Excellent. You're near 20 million people right now, because from Santa Barbara County.
The mountain road dates back to 1897. It was originally a 6-foot wide dirt road for stagecoaches. Our Hummer was 8 feet wide, counting the mirrors. The island is home to plant life you won't find anywhere else. We stopped and checked out a special variety of rosemary that looks a lot like dill that grows along the trail. Incredible fragrance.
What you're going to do is you're going to crush it in your palm.
Our tour was touted as an ecotourism ride. It's interesting to find out that the local restaurants donate their used cooking oil that's then converted into biofuel right there on the island and used to run the Hummers. Charlie Chaplin used to be a pilot that would fly his guests to the island.
Well, the Island Company, we do these tours out here that take us into areas where you can come across wild North American bison. They are scattered throughout this island. There's only about 100 roughly around that number out in the hills, and it's always kind of a roll of the dice. It's like whale watching. You can't promise them, but they are there sometimes. So when we come across them, people don't yell Andrew, they yell Bison. And so kind of a nickname now.
Fortunately, we didn't find any bison while we were on our Hummer ride, but we did find one at the airport.
Catalina Island, from Long Beach to Catalina Island, it's 26 miles, which is the same distance it would take to go from downtown LA to Disneyland. There's 20 million people in Southern California, and they're all on the freeway. But you come out here to the island, it's a different world.
Everyone has a story. Objects with stories are treasures remembered.
The GS on this saddle stands for George Summers. Well, back in the early 1930s, this gentleman would go to the coffee shop, and on his way home, he'd stop by a saddle shop in Garland and give what he could to get his special saddle. Some weeks it was 25, 50 cents. After 2 years of contributing for this saddle, he decided to tell his wife about it. Well, she was not thrilled, and she made him sell the saddle back to the maker. Fast forward 60 years, a gentleman by the name of Stan Summers was hauling propane in Collinston When a Mr. Jensen came out, they started to talk. He asked his name and said, his name is Stan Summers. He said, come here, you need to check this out. So they walked into his tack shop and uncovered a saddle. It's more than a saddle, it was the saddle. And he had a silver gaucho on the back and uncovered this GS. Had an emotional moment there. Made him an offer of the saddle, and ended up that Stan gave it to his father a couple years before he died. And here's the fun part. That saddle, it went back into the barn that the grandfather built because it just happens to be the house that Stan Summers lives in. The saddle he never sat in, but the home his grandson lives in and appreciates it every day. Everyone has a story. Objects with stories are treasures remembered. One of my favorite inspirational quotes is from Audrey Hepburn. She said, "To plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow."
Morning, John. Excellent.
I'm Doug Jessop, TV garden guy. Today, I'm at Mill Creek Gardens.
Lorraine, the pansies are looking fantastic. Greenhouse number 1, right?
That's our propagation
Okay,
house.
let's go.
Okay, come on in and see all the cool stuff we have going in here. Right now they're planting plugs, which come as little starts. These are 1-inch plugs, and in 4 weeks they'll be ready to come out. This is candy tuft. It even has a nice fragrance to it, and next to it is my favorite lupin. And these lupin, once there's some water in them, you can see a little jewel right in the middle. In each greenhouse, there's usually 7,000 to 10,000, depending on what varieties there are. And in here, we just go and plant a tray at a time in waves.
From Mill Creek Gardens with Lorraine, I'm Doug Jessop, TV garden guy. In the cybersecurity world, there's black hats and white hats. So I figured, what the heck? I'm going to wear my white hat. This one is called the Bailey Blanco. Over the years, I've been able to tell lots of stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. These stories deserve to be seen again, so we're opening the vault to the caring stories.
He was a black sergeant detective from Ogden City. He was Dad.
October 1963. Ogden Police Detective Sergeant Marshall White was shot and killed while trying to talk a suspect into surrendering his weapon. He was the first black officer killed in the line of duty in Utah. His son, Ronald White, was 6 years old.
He was the president of the NAACP, the Ogden City detective. He was a Mason. He hung out at the local Golden Gloves boxing joint.
Detective Sergeant Marshall White looked out for people in the community.
And I'm sure he was that way to a lot of people in the neighborhood. And he was their defender, and he was a hero to me.
The Marshall White Recreation Center was dedicated on the 5th anniversary of his death. Today, it's a busy place, with everyone from Head Start kids to seniors.
I guess I want them to remember this is a man that gave his all for his neighborhood. You know, we all give some, but he gave his all.
What's the Marshall White Recreation Center mean to the community?
It's truly been a melting pot and a gathering place for the community to come.
So what do you think Dad would think of this place now?
I think he would be proud that the young people have somewhere to go, something to do. I think that's what he always wanted.
This is what I like to see. Ogden Police playing basketball with the kids.
These stories deserve to be told. These are the caring stories.
You've heard Makisi music. Now it's time to find out about the man behind the music, Makisi Tapa. You've got a longer name than Makisi, okay?
I do.
You know, I know that most people call you Makisi Tapa, but I'm pretty sure that was not your given name.
It wasn't. My full name is Manu Makisi Tapa Atautai.
Sure, say that 3 times. We're at a cool venue, and we had you perform music for us today, and I'm going to have you give a shout out to the people, and this is a clue, okay? So where are we today?
We are in Taylorsville, Utah at Bonfire, the Kava Lounge, most epic Kava Lounge you've ever seen.
Okay, there's a shameless plug. Okay, so Kava. Okay, so what is Kava?
Kava is a ground up root of a plant that we grow in Tonga. And then we use it for traditional ceremonies, and here we gather around it and talk stories.
There you go. Well, I like talking stories. So you talk Tonga. So obviously you have Polynesian culture. So were you born in Tonga, or where were you born?
No, I was born here in Utah, Salt Lake City.
Okay, and then have you been to Tonga?
Yes, I have.
Tell me about it.
It was a good and bad experience for me. I got sent out there because I got in a little bit of trouble here in high school, and I got sent out there to be disciplined, and it turned out to be one of the best decisions that my dad ever made.
So you're in Tonga, then you come back. Okay, your dad made a good decision. What happened from there?
I just came back and basically fell into music, and music basically saved my life as far as me choosing the right people to be around.
Describe the kind of music that you perform.
It leans a lot towards reggae. That's the kind of music, but I try and change it up as much as I can.
Now, do you perform your own songs or covers, or what's kind of the...
I can do both. I've written many songs, and I do covers as well. One of the songs was called Gates, and it's featuring one of my good friends, Shonetoki. The song basically touches on just the struggles of everyday life, and how nowadays you see mostly pain, and we're trying to go past that. In one of the verses, I talk about how you drive past a girl, and she's just going through it, and all you're gonna do is just drive past her and not really think about her pain. But you don't know that it's raining and it's pouring in her world. And that's pretty much what Gates is, and then it's an uplifting song.
Now, that reminds me, from what I understand, you and your band are doing some humanitarian work. And it seems like it's kind of tied to the people that are sometimes forgotten.
Yeah, we try to feed the homeless as much as we can, basically on Saturdays. So if you guys here, come and help us.
Yeah.
Second South. We just try to give back, because I feel like we all felt that feeling of not having anything and not having help. So I just want to give that back. Well, me and my crew, we want to give that feeling back to people that feel hopeless. You know what I'm saying?
You met a young woman, and then you have a young girl.
I do.
Okay, so tell me about your family.
I'm married to Sehe Lasa Vakalai Tapa Atautai. We have a daughter named Fae Kivavau Tapa Atautai. They're just everything to me.
Yeah. Now, Fae, from what I understand, is named after someone very special.
She's named after my mom. The best lady I've ever known.
Well, the one performance that I think she would really be honored to be a part of is the one that had your daughter and the rest of your family.
Yeah.
So now that one was in a different language.
Yes.
So I'm presuming that was Tongan.
Yeah.
Okay, what was it called and what does it mean?
The song is called Fola Fola, and it's basically about the story of Noah. And the song is asking, God tells Noah, to do his job and make the ark. And the song basically calls for us asking Noah to leave the door open for us to wait, before the flood comes.
Sounds like that your faith is extremely important to you.
Oh, definitely. That's what gets me through every day. is my belief in God and knowing that the strength He gives me allows me to do everything I do.
To me, everyone has a story, and sometimes the stories are told through music. If there was one overreaching story for your music, what would it be?
Hope. Hope that I hope that my music can give hope to those that are hopeless, you know, and just bring a smile to you, you know, and basically just help you. If it helps you 10 minutes of your day, I think I did my job. If it made you smile, if it made you slow down, if you're going too fast, you know, I think if my music can bring meaning to every minute of your life, I think that'll be what the impact of my music can be.
What is your favorite song in the Tongan language that you could sing right now, right here?
It's called E Otua.
What's that mean?
It's just calling out to God.
Okay, you want to give us a sample?
Yeah. E Otua tata ki au whakaulo ai mama I hakulata pea ngauhi au koe whetu ngingila koko e ai lohi ma e mafi.
Wow. Okay. Last question I'd like to ask everybody. The name of this series is called Jessop's Journal. And I've got a journal, and you know, it's got all these scars and marks on it because to me life comes with scars. So, Makisi, how do you want to leave your mark?
I want to be known as someone that was kind. I know a lot of times, for me, I act rashly, but I feel like for me, I want to, more than a musician, I want to be known as a kind person. More than my music, more than anything, I just want to know as a person that was giving, and when you asked him for something, he gave the shirt off his back. If I can do that, can you fit a 2X?
We'll figure that out. Well, looking at the smile on your daughter's face, I think you're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I've interviewed lots of people over the years, and I have this little routine where I ask them some warm-up questions. So just for the heck of it, I'm going to have you guys answer this, you know, right there on your couch. So, number 1, sushi, yes or no? Number 2, dark chocolate or light chocolate? And number 3, what's up next?
Want Doug to broadcast from your event, destination, or business? Follow Doug.com.
What is culture?
Culture is how we identify with our family. It's how you and I communicate on some level, correct? Because we always are, as we're communicating with each other, we're looking for common ground.
Right.
And we find common ground through our culture a lot of times. And then we also find discord through it too.
You think? We've been having a little bit of that lately.
Yeah, we find discord through it too. When we lack a cultural understanding of each other and a baseline understanding of where we come from. So culture is important. It's I do believe the more we understand about each other, the more we want to know about each other. I think the cultural divide becomes more of something that we embrace.
What are those labels that you put on yourself?
My labels, if I'm going to label myself, would be I'm compassionate, kind, strong, and caring. And I think it's really important that we spend time in those identity factors, the things that really drive us. So culturally, I know what culture I'm part of, but as a woman and a businesswoman, an entrepreneur, right? And just a citizen of this community and of the world, I identify with compassion and understanding. And I think that if we all looked at ourselves in a different way with terms, right? Maybe in some sense, how we conduct ourselves is what people are going to remember. Are they going to remember that I'm a woman of color? Probably. But they're going to remember more how I treated them. They're going to remember more the time I invested in getting to know them. And they're going to remember more what the feeling that I left them with.
Everyone has a story, and sometimes those stories are told through music. It's time for Jessop's Jukebox.
What makes you smile? Spry Natural Xylitol gum makes me smile. I think it might help you too.
Thanks for watching this episode of Jessop's Journal. Could I ask you a favor? Please help spread the word about this show. It's a 30-minute collection of powerful, positive, and inspirational stories seen weekly on TV as well as online at jessopsjournal.com. Everyone has a story. Yes, you have a story. Stories have power. They help us understand each other. With another entry into Jessop's Journal, I'm Doug Jessop.